I don't know.
Hi, I'm Britt.
And my name is Alissa.
And this is Skeletales.
And this is the podcast where we strive to answer the age-old question of, is my dead grandma watching me?
So since we moved to Portland, I've been getting to hang out with my 3-year-old niece a lot. And I've come to realize that I'm pretty sure she's the reincarnation of a really nosy grandma. She's constantly asking everybody what they're doing. But she's 3, so it comes out, a doing. So she's really nosy, a doing. But the best is when we're out in public. Like we were at a park the other day and a woman was walking by and she comes up and she goes, "Where you going?" And she's like, "I'm walking." "Where you parked?" I was like, you can't ask that. No. My favorite is we were on a hike a couple of weeks ago. We were on a hike and we're passing this older gentleman who has a dog. And so she asks if she can pet the dog. So she asks, what's the dog's name? And, it's Kevin or whatever. And she looks up at this old man and she goes, "Hey, Papa, what you name?"
It's almost like she's some sort of detective. Like, it seems like she's interrogating. She needs some answers.
She does. Where you parked?
Yeah, like she has to crack this case. She was an old PI back in her old, previous life, and she's finally been reincarnated. But the twist is she's 3 years old and can't really ask questions, but she's got to crack this case.
She's got to do it. Getting the answers. Alissa, do we just talk about 3-year-old detectives?
No, Britt, we tell true tales of the strange, unusual, and paranormal.
That's right.
What are you talking about this week, Britt?
Okay, well, I don't know if you remember, but last weekend I was at your house.
Oh, shit, that's right. Was that just last weekend? Oh, my gosh, it was a week ago. I do remember.
And we went on a day adventure to Seattle and we explored, and it kind of inspired me. I thought maybe tonight we could talk about Seattle hauntings.
I think that's a great idea. Actually, looking into this, I was like, why didn't we do this beforehand? Because now I have a whole list of places we should have gone last weekend.
I know. Me too.
I was like, we could have gone here and here. It was pretty packed. It was busy. There wasn't a lot of time. Next time we have to plan better.
I know.
Set our itinerary.
And our kids would be so down for visiting haunted places.
Totally. Absolutely. They would.
All right.
I'm sure.
You've sold me. I have to come back and visit you again.
Okay. Actually, let's just leave our kids. I think that was the issue. I forgot. I was like, we should have done this and this and this. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. We have kids. Or we have to leave the kids with the husbands. And it's all of a sudden.
And then we go adventure around the haunted places. I love that idea.
Yeah. And then they get the kids' passive-aggressive haircuts. And then we kill the husbands, and now another place is haunted. And it comes full circle. Oh my
God, that should have been my dead grandma. When you take your kid to get the haircut and they come back looking like a grandma. Anyways, we were in Seattle. It was fun. I think I'm going to go first. Is that cool?
You go first. Yes, please.
Okay.
I hope we don't have the same stories.
While searching for stories, I came across a website that I have to tell you about.
Okay.
It is called liminal.earth. And it is a website that is a map.
Okay.
And you can post your paranormal experience on the map. So if something happens in your house in Issaquah, you can click on Issaquah, type out your story, and then it'll pop up on the map.
That's kind of cool.
It's amazing. And that's where I got this next story. So it's all of these true stories that people have posted on this website. This story comes from Emily. In 2009, I was working for Richard Hugo House. Have you heard of this before in Seattle?
No.
It's a writing center in an old Victorian house with a long and storied past as a former mortuary, funeral home, and theater. On the glass window of one of the front doors were the words, House of Illusion in faint cursive that I somehow missed the first few months I worked there. But the House of Illusion, it certainly was. The stories were many. When they first renovated the house in 1997, a construction worker reportedly saw the ghost of a little girl in a basement hallway. He quit that day and refused to return to the site. Infamously, in the basement, there was a baby coffin lying prone in a dark broiler room that no one had dared move for several decades. Beyond that, and I don't believe many people knew about this, was what haunted me most. A room with a dirt floor and several tiny school desks lined up in rows and facing toward a blank wall, as if a classroom for ghost children was always in session. What does that remind you of?
The basement of the old
Twin
Weyerhaeuser
Peaks.
mill.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks. Yes. What was this? What is this trend of desks and dirt-floored basements?
I don't know. I don't like it. If the rest wasn't spooky enough, the basement at this time was being used for the nonprofit Ruby Room and housed hundreds of old prom dresses. The Carrie vibes were strong. Two of the founders of Hugo House, husband and wife Francis McHugh and Gary Greaves, were living in an apartment on the second floor of the building with their young daughter as they renovated the building. Their own strange experiences, perhaps spirits stirred up by the construction, led them to invite an exorcist to the house to perform a clearing. But some spirits still seem to remain. Upstairs in the Zine Library, ZAAP, I don't know what that is, in the room where the morticians reportedly used to prepare the bodies were the most encounters. Things moved from place to place. A friend heard whispers over his shoulder, and as we slowly came to realize, no one could concentrate when trying to work in the room. A buzzing often seemed to resound in your head when you were in there, making focusing on anything difficult. One September, we began talking about Halloween plans. Historically, Hugo House had hosted a party called Haunted Hugo that was open to the public to come trick-or-treat, drink, and go on tours to the baby coffin. And I love that they put that in their Halloween plans. This year, though, they weren't planning on hosting a party. The front desk manager, Amy, and I were super bummed. Halloween was both our favorite holiday, and the house was just too perfect for a Halloween party. The director said they'd allow us to have a party if we didn't mind planning it ourselves, and we enthusiastically accepted the challenge. Our coworker, Joe, said he knew a ghost hunter that he could put us in touch with, who could maybe do something for the Halloween party. I programmed his number in my phone as the ghost hunter, alias, we'll call him Ross. Ross was more excited to come to the house for a hunt with his ghost hunting team called A Ghost. They'd done a hunt there back in the 90s that had been featured on Dateline and had apparently been dying to come back. Oh man, I gotta find that Dateline episode. They had stipulations. The hunt must be after midnight and no more than 4 other people could join them. We drew from a hat as the staff members who had let them in and set up the alarm system, and I was one of them. We met at the house at 2 a.m, sometime in the few weeks before Halloween. The night was foggy. Ross arrived with about 6 other members of the A Ghost, and they brought with them the most amazing arsenal of ghost tools. Ion detectors, high sensitivity voice recorders, night vision cameras, EMF meters, the works. I got to hold the ion detector. We split up into 4 groups and spread out all over the house with a plan to reconvene in about 2 hours. I was in a group with a clairvoyant medium and another clairvoyant woman who wore dangling jack-o'-lantern earrings. The medium described the spirits she felt in terms of color, gender, and mood. She said on driving up to the building, she felt the wide berth of a dark blue masculine spirit emanating from a room at the top of the house, describing its energy as brushing up against hers, two yachts passing each other in the night. In the upstairs kitchen area, she felt the yellow spirit of a woman who seemed to pace back and forth. In the back room of the house bar that I managed was the sad green spirit of a young boy, and I had felt it. In each room, we sat in a circle, and the ghost hunters would turn on the EVP, the electronic voice phenomena recorder. The medium would say something like, "Spirits, if you are here, please make yourself known. Knock on the wall or tap on the floor. Something to tell us you're here." Then we would wait. If any of us moved or made a sound, we would announce it so that, on listening back, we would know that it was us and not a spirit. All through the house we did this, including in the basement full of prom dresses. I was most terrified being down there, afraid to look at the mirrors from the dressing room for fear I would see something staring back at me. But all throughout the house we heard nothing until we went to the theater. In the audience area, the medium described the sound of residual applause, explaining that rather than a ghost, a residual phenomena was the echo of an event that had repeatedly occurred in a place and seemed to linger. But it wasn't until we got to the backstage and sat there in the dark, the darkest room of the whole house, calling on the spirits, that we seemed to receive any contact. Listening back to the recording, we heard the distinct sounds. Tap, tap, tap. We listened back several times. It was distinct, as unremarkable as it seemed. The women said it was significant. Something was trying to reach us. Reconvening with the group, the other activity center of the house, the zine library, had been the most lively. Another group taking pictures with a digital camera appeared to have captured the figure of a man in a tuxedo jacket standing at the window of the former autopsy room, taken from the window opposite in the kitchen where the yellow woman paced. The House of Illusion, aka Richard Hugo House, has since been torn down and a new building built in its place, with a new version of the Writing Center opening soon. Who knows what construction might have done to those remaining spirits, but I'm curious if they remain and what the new staff of the house may experience should the renovations have stirred them up again. I have no idea what became of the baby coffin or the ghost classroom. Perhaps they still remain there in the darkness.
Wait, what was the name of it? The Hugo House?
The what? Hugo House. Richard Hugo House.
Richard Hugo.
He's a writer. So he actually never lived in the house, but the writing center was used for all types of artists and writers, and it was like a house for creative.
Who is Victor Hugo? That's who I'm thinking of.
Oh, Victor Hugo is
he Richard's brother?
Famous.
So now the house got torn down, though, and now you can't go there?
No.
I wonder if it's
I
still
think
haunted.
they've rebuilt it to some high-rise apartments, but it sounds like they are, reopening in that area, another writing center. But the old haunted Hugo House is gone. So sorry, we can't visit that one. Mark it off your list.
Okay, so my story today, actually, you mentioned that your Hugo House used to be a mortuary.
Yeah.
My story today also is about a building that used to be a mortuary. And actually, I was going between two of them because Mitch and I, a couple years ago, as before the pandemic, went out to dinner somewhere and went and got a drink in this building. And I think the name of the bar was called Pine Box. And it used to be a mortuary. You go in.
Great name.
And it has like super like gorgeous woodwork, and it's almost like you're having a drink in the chapel area. And then when we asked about it, it was the mortuary where Bruce Lee had his like final ceremony. So I was trying to look into that place. I was very disappointed because I tried to find some good stories. Even so, it's a cool place. And if you come back and we want to go out to just apparently a bunch of bars that used to be mortuaries, I think it's a thing in Seattle.
I can do it.
When trying to find information about that location, that was the Pine Box, I stumbled upon another story about a haunted bar in Seattle called Kells near Pikes Market in Seattle. And back in the early 1900s, Seattle, was a settlers town, and there were epidemics of tuberculosis and diphtheria and the Spanish flu and just a lot of people were dying and there were not proper burial services. And so what was happening is people would just die in the streets and that was it. There'd just be bodies in the streets. And to the point where Seattle started offering $50 to people to get the bodies off of the street. Like,
which actually pretty good amount.
That's
like
a lot of money,
then.
Especially back in the day. I don't know. This is what, okay, don't check my sources or someone can follow up on that. Maybe it was 50 cents, but $50 seems like a lot of money. I saw that a couple of places.
I mean, bodies are heavy.
True. They are heavy.
Stinky.
And then what
how
do you
long
do
has
with
it
one?
been there? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Might
So anyway, a fellow named E.R. Butterworth saw an opportunity to make some money, and that's exactly what he did. So he built a 3-story building that was pretty much heralded. Almost all these stories and all these buildings and all of these bars that you find in this city was the first mortuary ever in the country. But now I've read like 3 or 4 of them that
They're
are
all
claiming
the first
that.
ones.
So I have no idea. But supposedly this was the first mortuary in Seattle, the first full service mortuary. So you could go and, buy a coffin. I'm like, what is the word? Cushion. A casket. You could do it all. Okay. There's a chapel. You could do one-stop shop for all your dying needs. And so the deal was that what I saw was that someone would bring him the bodies. And so he would keep $25 and whoever brought him would keep $25, I guess. And so then he would embalm them and get them ready for death. More ready for death or whatever. There's also rumors though that he was not the most straight and narrow guy, like that because of this arrangement where he got paid per dead body that he actually started setting up some deaths. You pay someone $5 to kill somebody and then you get, $45. It's not
oh my gosh.
Bad business plan. Okay. So also he was implicated as an accomplice in some very infamous murders in the Seattle area that I only learned about since I've been here, but I'm not sure if you've heard about. Linda Hazzard. Have you ever heard of her? And Starvation Heights? No? Okay. So Linda Hazzard, despite her lack of a medical degree, was licensed to practice medicine in Washington. And do you know about this?
I've heard of this, but you have to continue for any listeners who do not know this story because it's a good one.
Okay,
it's terrible,
and I'll try.
But good.
It's terrible. I mean, it could be its own episode completely. Okay, so yes, Linda had a loophole and started practicing medicine even though she didn't have a medical degree. And she wrote a book called The Science of Fasting. And basically her whole deal was that all ailments and everything that could be wrong with you can be cured through the miracle of fasting. And so she opened this sanitarium in Western Washington where she would have these patients, wealthy patients, come and she would treat them. And by treating them, basically she gave them like a teaspoon of orange juice or a broth for a whole day. And these people were literally just starving to death. And then she also did some shady ass shit where she had people like sign over their bank accounts to her, all under this premise of them curing. She's curing them, she's curing them, she's curing them. So, the name of her sanitarium was Wilderness Heights, and inpatients fasted for days, weeks, or months. And like I said, on a diet of small amounts of tomato and asparagus juice and occasionally a small teaspoon of orange juice. There's actually a guy who kept a journal of what she fed him. And it was like, oh, it was just terrible. And then he's like, oh, my stomach hurts a little bit more today. And it goes right up until like the day before he dies from starvation. So while some patients survived and publicly sang her praises, more than 40 patients died under her care. Hazzard claimed that they all died of undisclosed or undiagnosed organic illnesses such as cancer or cirrhosis that had nothing to do with the fact that she was starving them. Her opponents claimed that they had all died of starvation, and local residents referred to the place as Starvation Heights, and because there would just be these like skeletons wandering around the premises. She assured people that her method was a panacea for all manner of ills because she was able to rid the body of toxins that caused imbalances in the body. So then in 1912, she was convicted of manslaughter for the death of Claire Williamson, a wealthy British woman who weighed less than 50 pounds at the time of her death. At the trial, it was proved that Hazzard had forged Williamson's will and stolen most of her valuables. Williamson's sister, Dorothea, also took the treatment, and it is alleged only survived because a family friend showed up in time to remove her from the compound. She was too weak to leave on her own, weighing less than 60 pounds, and she later testified against Hazzard at trial. Those two girls, the sisters, Claire and Dorothea, were, I want to say they were twins, and they were British twins, and they were kind of like hypochondriacs and would, because they were so well-to-do as well, they could kind of just travel the world looking for cures to what ails them, right? And so they did show up at Linda Hazzard's sanitarium and underwent her treatment. And it was like their nanny or something, who's this woman who came and showed up. There was some letters exchanged, and she was like, I don't feel okay with whatever's going on here. And so she came in and paid a visit and saw that one of these girls was like, one had just died, I think.
But
one was,
like bones, just bones.
Yeah. So she was like, oh, hell no. And took her out of there. And then, everything came kind of crumbling down for Hazzard at that point. But back to Butterworth, the rumors were that the mortuary had cremated Claire and substituted a healthier looking corpse in her place.
So shady.
Yeah. So, and then worse, one of the Butterworth's employees pled guilty to the illegal removal of Claire's body from the Olalla Sanitarium. So it sounded like they had some kind of deal, because one, Butterworth, the more bodies he got, the better.
40 patients.
Yeah. Well,
to starve to, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot. And so Linda Hazzard had a lot of money, though, too, at this point, right? Because she's just ripping people off. She's getting written into wills. She's stealing
what's
jewelry.
The overhead on that? You don't have to pay for food. It's
exactly
just like
you're right.
This wilderness house.
So then she must have been paying him off, too, because these bodies looked so horrible by the time they got to the funeral home. He's like, yeah, sure, I could dig up some healthier looking corpses for you for a price. So regardless, I think Linda Hazzard was sentenced to 2 to 20 years in prison, which she served in the Washington State Penitentiary. Oh, my God, that word again. I don't know how I say it. Penitentiary. No, penitentiary.
Penitentiary.
You got there it is. Yeah. Okay. The penitentiary. Oh, Lord. Okay.
The slammer. Just call it the slammer.
The slammer. Yeah, jail. Okay. She was at the Washington State Jail in Walla Walla, and she was released on parole on December 26, 1915, after serving 2 years. And guess what she did? Yeah.
Oh, no.
She moved to New Zealand, where she continued to practice as a dietitian and an osteopath. In 1920, she returned to Washington and opened a new sanitarium known publicly as a school of health. No.
Who allowed that shit to happen?
So since her medical license had been revoked, she just continued to supervise fasts until it burned to the ground in 1935, and it was never rebuilt. So yeah, killed 50 people, was released, opened up a whole new place. I hope that was a
disgruntled, hungry person who burnt that place down.
I hope so too. Okay, the silver lining, and I don't know if this is silver lining. Linda Hazzard died in 1938 while attempting a fasting cure on herself.
Oh, damn. She died of starvation.
Uh-huh. So she tried to cure herself and died at her own game. So I guess she believed what she was doing. She just sounds like a crazy person. I don't know. Anyway, back to the pub. Okay, so all these stories make for a very haunted Irish bar now in current day Seattle. And a shaman who once visited the former mortuary says that there are 19 fully formed ghosts that now haunt the building.
Damn, that does not surprise me. Butterworth, with his shady, shady biz, there's some unsettled spirits there.
Absolutely, 100%. Why would you haunt the mortuary, though? Is that... I need answers. I want to know how these choices are made.
maybe they don't have a choice. Maybe they're like stuck spirits.
Maybe they weren't like fully dead until they like got to the mortuary, and that's where they die. And that is how it works. Wherever you die is where you have to haunt. Ghost boundaries.
Those boundaries.
Deal with it.
Stuck. Well, they should be happy it's an Irish bar now and not some dingy mortuary.
That is true. Okay, so would you like to hear about some of the ghosts who haunt this bar?
Oh my God, always. Yes.
Okay. So according to the sister of the bar owner, she saw a tall man who looked like he was part shadow with a suit jacket on. He had very thin hands and he walked to the end of the bar and just kind of faded. So a nicely dressed man with long, skinny fingers who just disappeared. There's also a little girl with long red hair, and she's known to play pranks on the guests, but really she wants to play with the other kids. During the day, you can have children in the pub, so that's when she's most active. The ghost girl can manipulate physical things and has made toys for children, like rag dolls who visit the bar. No one knows the girl's identity. She may have been one of the many children who died in the 1918 influenza outbreak. The ghost girl doesn't mean to harm anyone, so have some fun with her if she manifests near you.
Wait.
Is what this article recommends.
She's just like manifesting ragdolls on the bar?
Apparently. Also, I heard that she also will ask kids if they have any toys. So a kid will be sitting there, a little girl will be like, hey, do you have any toys to play with? And the kids turn around and there's no one there. Or there's like a little creepy red-haired ghost girl. So Ghost Ventures or one of those ghost detecting shows actually came out to this bar one time too and did some investigating. And so there's this story of this little girl who's like real sweet and everything. And then they went in there and took pictures and they come out with this one image. There's an image of a deformed child in the corner of this bar. So I don't know. They're trying to claim that it's this little girl. Who knows? Who knows?
I mean, shadows, they're not going to be pristine. Don't be rude.
No, it was kind of, I mean, we can post the picture. It's just like a little chunk in the corner, a chunk of a person, a deformed child. Okay, then there's a ghost named Charlie, and he manifests in the Guinness mirror and then disappears. Charlie does it quite often on nights when a band plays. You know it's him because he's an older gentleman wearing a derby hat. And even in death, it seems he's still a fan of live music because he's been seen hanging about the bar and the stage. More often than not, it's musicians who see his familiar dark shadows. So I think that might be the same one that the bar owner's sister saw too. The fancy guy with a suit jacket, maybe a hat. Or Hat Man. And then there's also another less famous ghost named Sammy who also appears in the mirrors. And some say that he can only be seen through the mirror and disappears whenever you turn around to check him out. That's my least favorite ghost right there.
Nope. I mean, I want to go and I'm going to look in the mirror, but I'm going to be really, really scared when I do it.
Yeah. And then, oh my gosh, closing of a bar at night. And then you see a fella in the mirror. What can I get you, sir? You turn around. No one's there. Old mortuary. No. Okay. And so then, like I said, that Ghost Ventures or whoever the name of that paranormal investigators went in there and they did do a little EVPing. And what they got was a few recordings, one saying, "Get us Hazzard." Another saying, "Get me out of here." And then another saying, "Do something quicker."
Get me out of here? Oh,
I don't like that one. Get us Hazzard. Like those ones are mad and they want their
revenge ghosts.
So that's the story of Kel's Bar. It's the Butterworth building and its relationship to, I want to say they say she's one of the first serial killers in the country or female serial killers for sure in Washington, one of the most prolific.
I just hate that she was only in prison for 2 years and then just went right back to it. And it sounded like New Zealand had none of it. Like they kicked her out of New Zealand. She came back here.
Yeah, I guess. Like, and then you go right back to the same place.
Oh my God. Like, not even a different state.
I think maybe she
Idiot.
had supporters still, like friggin' bizarre. I mean, even, yeah, it's still happening today. There's still all sort, like all these fad diets and whatnot. Like,
I remember when I was working at the health food store back in Denver, so many moons ago, there was a woman who was, she was probably in her 50s at the time, was telling me about in the 70s that they had these fasting camps or fasting like homes or whatever, and people would go there, and for 7 to 10 days they just drank water, and that was like their thing that they did. And I just remember being like flabbergasted, and that it's still practiced. I mean, that was back in the 70s, but still, like,
yeah. Okay, I guess there is like some research on like people who are in chemotherapy or something. There's like, if you fast for 3 days or a certain amount, it kickstarts your immune system. It will like, so I think there's a balance. I don't think 100% it's all hoodoo voodoo, right? There are apparently some short-term benefits to fasting in certain circumstances. 3 months or whatever she was doing to these people, that's just not helpful after a while. And then there are pictures.
What a torturous way to die. What a torturous way to die.
Well, then people were there, well, supposedly on their own accord, right? So there isn't much people could do for them. They're just like, no, I'm getting this treatment and that's it. Like, so again, I think this nanny, just there was something in the letters or something, or maybe they found out that she died and they're like, wait, what? There's like no reason this perfectly healthy person should die. Went to see what was going on, and then was like, found the other sister and was like, oh no. But yeah, then she went right back to it. Managing and supervising other people's fasts.
I hate that.
I know. That. It is. But she must have believed it because she did it to herself. That's how she died. So then it's just like, oh, yeah, you were. Yeah.
If I envisioning an afterlife where she dies and her ghost is like floating around, and I just see all of these really angry, like skeletal other ghosts being like, I'm going to get you, Hazzard.
Yeah, but I feel like she thought she was right. I don't even know if it was like evil. It sounds like she was delusional. Like she's like, no, it wasn't that. It's not that. The fact that you're not eating, it's that you stubbed your pinky toe the other day. Like just not looking at the elephant in the room and blaming everything but the actual cause. So anyway, do you have another story?
I do. I have a couple of short stories, so I'll sprinkle these for the end of our podcast. All right. This next one comes from Art. They say, my partner and I moved to Seattle back in January to the Chinatown International District and have loved it. But lately we've been experiencing some weird things in the apartment. The first weird thing happened about a month ago. My partner was in the only closet in our studio apartment when he jumped out startled, eyes as big as dinner plates. Without taking his eyes off the closet, he asked me if I had said, help me. And I told him that I hadn't. I was just sitting at the computer playing a game. We shook it off and assumed it was nothing. Then a week ago, I was cooking something for dinner while my partner was showering. Completely distracted, I felt a hand on my ass, so I jokingly batted it away and asked him not to bother me while I was cutting up vegetables. No answer, so I turned around and realized that he was still in the shower. I went and asked him if he was fucking with me, to which he said he didn't do it. Last night, I was laying in bed having a hard time going to sleep, and out of the corner of my eye, I see a head and shoulders raise up from the foot of the bed. I do a quick double take, but on my second look, the figure is gone. And literally just 10 minutes ago, I am in bed and I see the shadow of a man walk by the corner of my bed into the kitchen. I am freaked out. All doors and windows are locked. I checked the 2 rooms in our studio, the bathroom and laundry room, and there's nothing. Not a single sign of someone else in our apartment. I feel very on edge. Are you familiar with the Chinatown International District?
No, I wouldn't say I am. That's it. That's my final answer.
Haunted.
Okay.
It's so, I love, if this is a haunted gentleman in their apartment, touching asses, hanging out in closets.
Like, yeah. Thanks for moving in, guys.
Pervy.
Yeah.
It's a little pervy, dude.
It sounds cozy because what they just said it's like a studio. He's like, the more the merrier. Woo.
Yeah,
like he's enjoying
here.
the new the new roommates.
All right, so one more. This is by Rose. She says, so about 2 years ago, I lived in a house near the Alaska Junction. That's in West Seattle. It was a pretty old house, about 70 years old. It had been renovated a lot. Anyways, it was late at night and I couldn't sleep. I got the feeling that someone was watching me. So I looked around my room and noticed there was someone in my doorway. It was a man in a suit. There's so many men in suits.
What? Why are there so many men in suits?
I don't know. And why are you in the doorway? Anyways, he was staring at me with a blank expression on his face. If I had been less tired, I probably would have screamed, but it was very late, and in my sleep-deprived state, I decided to try to talk to him. So I got out of bed, and as soon as I set my foot down, a hand emerged from under my bed and grabbed my foot.
What? No. What?
No.
Where is this all in the same neighborhood?
I should probably find out where the Chinatown. Maybe it is. I gasped and kicked it away and got back into bed, deciding it was probably better not to talk to him anyways. So he continued staring at me, and I stared back. And then out in the hallway, I heard someone starting to cry. I peered around the man and saw a little girl with her head sitting down, sobbing in the hallway. I hid under my blankets until it was morning and they had faded away. Probably my scariest paranormal experience to this day.
I didn't know that ghosts like grabbing you and like emerging from beds and wearing suits is such a thing in this area.
I don't know. Well, and this just, it had everything. There's like the sobbing girl, man in suit in the doorway and grabbing from the bed. She like had all of the nightmares and once. Part of me is almost like, was this a dream? Because this seems almost too
it sounds way too
insane.
Like trippy, like a scene out of a movie, and it's just like, yeah.
I can get this is gonna sound. I can get behind the man in the doorway. If that happened to me, I'd be like, oh, it's happening. I've heard of this. Something grabbing my foot from under the bed? Hell no.
I didn't want to talk to that creepy man in the doorway that bad anyway. Like, what? Like,
like, what were you? Walk up to him and be like, hi, what's your name?
I hope this isn't Ketchin. I hope this isn't a Western Washington thing. I don't need none of that. Well, and then when I hear about a man in a doorway, I just like think of like door-to-door salesmen or something. Are these all just like dead door-to-door salesmen? Like, is that what's going on?
Residual spirits, just like, excuse me, ma'am, would you like to buy a Bible?
One of the other stories I was looking at doing was the Black Diamond Cemetery, which is like a little south of me. It's not that far from here, but apparently it's really haunted. And one of the things was that supposedly it's haunted by miners who are eternally looking for more coal. And I was like, oh, is that like... That sounds terrible. Like coal
awful.
It's not diamonds or gold.
Afterlife.
It's like, yeah. So is it really just like one of those bad dreams where like I used to work at a grocery store. So some of my dreams were like doing the checkout and just being stuck at work doing the checkout register. Is that what his afterlife is? Is like one of those horrible like work dreams that he's like, I just got to find this last piece of coal and then the whistle will blow. That sounds horrible.
and then it just starts all over again, and you're back at work, and you're digging for coal.
That's
okay.
Maybe one of the scariest things we've ever.
This is why
you
should find a job that you love. So if you're stuck doing it for eternity, at least you won't be miserable.
I think that's some great advice, Britt. So
Thank you.
Just figure out a job that you love because you'll likely be doing it for eternity.
For eternity.
Once you die. Oh,
Dun,
God.
dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is fun. I like this. I feel like we should do more locational stuff. And every time we do a locational thing, we want to do more. So
yeah, so those were some good Seattle stories. I enjoyed those. Hey, if you have any stories you'd like to write in, you can do that. Send them to us in our hot box at Seattle. Nope. Shit. It's going too smooth.
delete.
At skeletalespodcast@gmail.com, or you can call our hotline.
302-689-DEAD, 302-689-3323. We are on all the social medias under Skeletales or Skeletales Podcast, and you can DM us over there. We love it if you share this podcast with a friend. The more the merrier.
Like, rate, review, do all those things, and also go check us out on our Etsy shop.
Skeletalespodcast.etsy.com. We have a continual array of haunted items that are popping up in the shop. So that's pretty exciting.
I know. They're going like hotcakes. Haunted hotcakes. So by the time we can't even talk about them live, because if we told you about something that's in there right now, it probably won't be there when you go to look.
Hot brag.
Too fast. Oh, Britt, there's one more thing I need to tell you.
Yeah, what is it?
Haunt you later.
Haunt you later. Oh, no, haunt y'all later. Good night, Alissa.
Good night, Britt. Oh, shit.